Celebrity demands are nothing new, as we've seen from our favorite diva Jennifer Lopez. But what if Oprah had a way of making them so subtle, almost hidden, that it never really clicked for us in the moment? I respect those who like to keep their personal lives, well, personal. There are some intimate things that people like to keep close to the heart. Like Michael Jackson, for example. To me, this was outrageous. Asking such a personal question of, has he ever been intimate with someone on live television? We can clearly see in the video as well, as soon as she asks that question, he becomes extremely uncomfortable by it, taking in a sharp breath from being caught off guard like that. Like most people, you'd see that reaction and you would move on from the topic. But not Oprah, apparently. She eggs him on saying, I just want to know, I want to know. Why? Why do you want to know about this man's personal life so badly? What really aggravates me about this is that throughout the beginning of the clip, you can see what she's hinting at, and then finally hits Michael with a blow by saying this sentence specifically as, I'm gonna ask you this, and it's embarrassing for me to ask you this, but I'm gonna ask you anyway. So you stopped yourself at the beginning, we can see the wheels turning in your head, and yet you proceeded to continue onwards with it. Michael was very respectful with the situation, saying that he was a gentleman, explaining that sure, he may be old-fashioned, but to him it's something that's kept private. After clearly avoiding the question multiple times, she says in this disappointing tone, so you're not gonna answer it. Do you usually ask all the celebrities who come onto your show about their personal lives like that? Continuing to go down this Oprah rabbit hole, I've noticed there have been patterns where it doesn't seem like Oprah appreciates being contradicted or isn't able to grab what she really wants out of people from their interviews. From watching these interviews thus far, she cleverly does this in a way where she doesn't outright say, no, you need to be saying this. But you can tell in her body language and in the tone of her voice that she is trying to persuade you somewhere else. I love That's So Raven growing up, and she had done an interview as well with Oprah. Raven clearly shows that she doesn't want anything to do with labels in terms of preference when it comes to dating and even identity when she claims herself as only American and not African American. Oprah then jokingly goes, oh girl, don't set up the Twitter on fire, then proceeds to go, stop the tape right now, as they're both laughing. No harm there, right? Is Oprah agreeing with her maybe? The interview takes a bit of a turn, however, as once again, Oprah is egging her on a little bit here going, you know you're gonna get a lot of flack by saying you're not African American. To which Raven reiterates she doesn't label herself as such. Watching Oprah's body language here is interesting, as she's constantly shifting around a little uncomfortably now that this topic is out there. It seems her interest has peaked. Her tone changes a little as well, not so much demanding her, but with a very stern tone she goes, so I want you to really say what you really mean by that. It's very subtle, but specifically with the emphasis on mean, made me revisit the interview from a different perspective. Raven says what she means, so I'm personally not understanding what Oprah here isn't understanding. This last story is a bit of a long one, but I promise you it's worth it. Those of you who are artist performers watching this right now, please raise your hand if you've ever been told the phrase, you'll be paid in exposure. Because I sure have, and exposure doesn't buy me eggs and milk at the grocery store. That's exactly what happened with this performer, Revolva, who's a multidisciplinary artist that specializes in hula hooping, circus acts, as well as her own writer and character performer. Revolva titles the story An Open Letter to Oprah. The Life You Want asked me to work for free. The title alone already hooked me, as I was shocked to see that people who would be performing alongside the Oprah were getting absolutely nada from it. Revolva starts her letter by explaining the sheer excitement she was experiencing at how her life was about to change for the better. I've always wanted to hear, welcome Revolva, as I cartwheeled on stage. And the majority of us have experienced that sort of ambition when brought into a new performing opportunities that may boost your career. The woman was so ready to have her story told, to do the things she loved to do and finally get paid for it. Then I tell you my story. The profundity of all my lingering student loan debt causing you to weep and then declare to America that I am your new BFF. Revolva goes on to explaining that she had been within this industry for 12 years, wanting to make even the slightest splash out there, wanting to break free from the toxic culture of performance industry and showcase herself from what feeds her soul. As Revolva was speaking with ecstasy and euphoria, the poor woman was immediately shot down as the conversation with Oprah's producer continued. They stated, okay, just to be clear, you'd be on the stage outside of the event. And you know, just to be clear, Oprah will not be on that stage. Oh, and just to be clear, this isn't a paid gig. This feels like an entirely different set overall. If these local performers are going to be on a completely separate stage and Oprah is on the other one, who's going to be in the audience? Also, might I add, Revolva states that tickets for the show show ranged from $99 to $999. You're one of the biggest influencers in the world, to which I'm sure you'd be having quite the audience turn up. Why aren't these performers getting paid? I don't watch Oprah, but I'm also well aware of the classic video of look under your chair for a gift or surprise. But I guess it's easier to do that in a smaller audience where giving out those gifts would be like buying a cup of coffee for you. Revolva even comments, featuring trailblazers who never have to dig through every compartment in their car for enough change to cross the Bay Bridge would be ringing up the local performers asking them to do their job for no pay. But hey, apparently she would receive a free ticket to the performance as well. Sorry, but an Oprah Winfrey ticket just doesn't cut out for apartment rent. Revolva would have understood the situation better if she was the one to call and ask about performing, but she wasn't. Oprah Winfrey's producer called her, thinking they would just bend over backwards for them. Everyone else was apparently getting paid though, high-end performers and all the tech and sound crew to make sure you look and sound good, right? I feel for this creator deeply as someone who used to fall prey into performing for free. However, Revolva stood her ground and actually stated she wanted some sort of pay before continuing. This was a prior agreement of having travel costs reimbursed, but that was it. And when Revolva took her right to ask for a proper payment, she was told that the acts were now fully booked and would be reached out in the future for any other opportunities. Revolva took this experience as a spiritual learning lesson, but was still proud of herself for sticking true to her art and values. Sometimes you really got to look into the hidden details of it when it comes to brain-flipping tactics that some people will do, especially when it comes to live television. Keep your eyes open for the small things. I'm your host, Alice, and thank you for joining me in this dive with Oprah.